Shout out to Ring RQ, Julius, you legend. We're going to do a joint interview, yeah? Yeah, we'll do a joint interview, Julius. Thanks for the support. You're a legend. From your girls, Raven and Ellie.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Ow! Okay, we'll start with this. One of my favorite unbeaten up-and-comers from the United Kingdom, Rhiannon Dixon, is going to be returning to action this weekend on the 11th on what was supposed to be Callum Smith's big ring return opposite the ring Stipian. But as we all know, Callum Smith suffered an injury in camp, so the show will go on because it must.
Rhiannon Dixon is a part of that show.
She's going to be opposite the ring, unbeaten up-and-comer, an unbeaten fighter like herself, Vicki Wilkinson. Sports professional record of 5 wins with no losses, 1 draw.
No recorded knockouts, not yet.
To Rhiannon's unblemished record of 7 wins, no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts, not yet. But don't let that fool you. Rhiannon Dixon is developing power, fight by fight. She can punch.
Yeah, she's got snap in those shots.
I'm very high on Rhiannon Dixon, and I'm not going to apologize for that. This is a fighter that don't come from some deep amateur background. This ain't a Team GB member or an Olympian of some kind. No.
She's very good, very put together.
Dixon versus Wilkinson is a solid fight for a solid fighter, an unbeaten up-and-comer who's looking to garner more professional experience in the absence of amateur accolades.
It's being billed as a lightweight contest. Lightweight, that's where Katie Taylor campaigns as that division's undisputed champion. She's got an iron grip on those belts.
I don't actually think that it's Rhiannon Dixon's intention to get Katie Taylor in the ring and challenge her for those belts because they're in very different places, very different stages in their careers. Where Rhiannon Dixon is making her bones as a professional, Katie Taylor is already an established name, a well-established fighter.
She's only looking for big fights. She's supposed to be moving up in weight real soon to challenge Chantel Cameron for the undisputed crown at super lightweight.
Her and Rhiannon are in different paths, different trajectories, where this is really just the beginning for Rhiannon Dixon. Katie Taylor may be approaching the end. She may be in the tail end of her career. And Rhiannon, she last saw action in December of last year. She fought 3 times last year.
It's a very good schedule of activity for a young up-and-comer, young unbeaten fighter.
Looked very sharp opposite the ring. Amateur standout of Morocco, Majuba Ubtil, looked the part against seasoned veteran journeywoman Adina Kiss, capped off the year with a points decision win over Christine Shergold.
Rhiannon Dixon exhibits real promise, a real high ceiling for a fighter that don't come from a deep amateur background, but there are a few defensive...
There are some holes that need patching up, things she needs to work on. You know, sometimes she is on the receiving end of more than one right hand throughout the course of a round, the course of a fight.
Rhiannon being a southpaw, fighting out of the southpaw stance, you don't want to be seeing that. You got to clean that up.
Straight right hand is often dubbed the southpaw killer. The silver lining is that at this early stage in Rhiannon's career, it's okay to make those mistakes so long as you're working on them. And I think she's doing that.
Working on fixing them.
She'll be opposite the ring Vicki Wilkinson this weekend, who was just as, if not more busy than Rhiannon was last year. Vicki fought 5 times.
It's a good run of fights for an unbeaten up-and-comer.
Last in action in November, opposite the ring veteran journeywoman Becky Ferguson. Vicki was able to win a points decision.
Vicki Wilkinson, who's an unbeaten up-and-comer the same way that Rhiannon Dixon is an unbeaten up-and-comer in today's lightweight division. But you know what I always say? Not all unbeaten up-and-comers were created equal.
Offensively or defensively, Vicki Wilkinson is not as coordinated a fighter. Her movements are not as fluid and coordinated as Rhiannon Dixon's movements. Her combinations, as they were, look more like flurries, uncoordinated, disorganized flurries.
She can be caught between the punches because they're not defensible.
She can be countered because her work is messy and disorganized.
Whereas Rhiannon Dixon's a lot more put together.
It's fundamentally better, shows the jab, sets up the backhand with it, downstairs, upstairs.
Good textbook style with a few nuances.
She's got speed in those hands and speed in those legs. And speed, as it were, it's one of those things to where either you got it or you don't. You can sharpen it, you can improve upon it.
But you have to have it in the first place. You have to have it in order to do that. Not everybody's got it. Rhiannon Dixon, she's got it.
Vicki Wilkinson doesn't. Her footwork, she seems a lot slower to the punch, slower on her feet.
Very clumsy movements.
It's not fluid, it's disorganized. That's the best way to describe Vicki Wilkinson's methodology. It's all very awkward and tense.
Flurries.
Makes it a good test for Rhiannon Dixon is that while Vicki Wilkinson is disorganized, she's also awkward and very game. She's willing to get into exchanges, willing to trade punches. So the trial for Rhiannon will be maintaining form against a very awkward opponent.
It's what Vicki is.
Work from Rhiannon Dixon is a lot more neat and tidy. Photo finish punches, photo finish backhands, photo finish body shots, well-placed combinations. I very much like Rhiannon Dixon's shot selection. She's not all about landing a big backhand, a big straight left hand. She also has a quality right hook.
Upstairs or downstairs, I'd say the right hook is actually Rhiannon Dixon's money punch.
It's one of her best punches, and consistently, fight by fight, it's a punch that finds a home.
Keeps things fresh.
It's not that Rhiannon Dixon doesn't have a good backhand, a good straight left hand from out of the southpaw stance. She does. It's that she's not reliant on it. The fact that she fires those sharp hooks, those short punches, mid-range to inside, it prevents things from becoming predictable and subsequently monotonous.
Manages the distance well. I think Rhiannon Dixon has a better understanding of her range than Vicki Wilkinson does.
When Vicki engages and she lets punches go, she lets them go in such a way that it's really not defensible, that she can be caught. Her torso, it is a bit upright as well.
Usually is. She's not fighting on a swivel or changing levels.
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if she had a better guard. You could see how a fighter could get punches off that sail around the guard or split the guard, split it all together up the middle with uppercuts. Rhiannon Dixon, she can fire some uppercuts.
Not a lot that she can't do.
What she can do, she does it infinitely better than Vicki Wilkinson. She's better in every way, better in every department. I like Rhiannon Dixon to win a points decision, though, given the defensive lapses in judgment.
I can see her dropping Vicki a couple of times.
If it doesn't end in a knockout, I still think we might see some knockdowns.
Because when you leave yourself open like Vicki leaves herself open, a fighter with some speed,
fundamentally sound fighter like a Rhiannon Dixon, you give them that much more to work with. You're giving them that many more opportunities. I like Rhiannon Dixon to win this weekend and advance to a professional record of 8-0.
Dixon on points is the pick.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, an article by way of John Wall Street states, boxing is safe amidst Paramount Plus Showtime consolidation, at least through 2024.
Seems that the people at Showtime and PBC can breathe a sigh of relief, at least temporarily.
Paramount Plus, both the streaming service and the linear network in the United States, will be rebranded as Paramount Plus with Showtime later this year. Media observers and fans alike are wondering what the corporate restructuring means for Showtime Sports, and specifically its 37-year-old boxing program. Some have taken the company's failure to explicitly address the sport in internal memos outlining Paramount Plus with Showtime's future as an indication its days on the platform are numbered. But it seems premature to begin writing about boxing on the network in the past tense. Showtime has assembled a loaded 2023 schedule.
9 events over the next 4 months.
We have been given the green light to go ahead and continue doing what we do best, Stefan Espinoza, the president of Showtime Sports, said.
You gotta read in between the lines, though. They had to be given the green light to continue showing boxing.
It's not even wanting them to fail or wanting people to lose their jobs. It's just the nature of the situation that they're in. Paramount, Showtime's parent company, is looking to shed the excess, focus on what works, and cast away what doesn't drum up business, what doesn't bring them views or new subscribers.
That's the gist of it.
And if Stefan Espinoza is saying that they had to be given the green light before they could move ahead, before they could move forward with their regularly scheduled programming, that accents what I've been talking about.
The article reads, competition in the streaming service marketplace has also made it increasingly difficult for the standalone service, like Showtime, to thrive. It simply does not have the volume of content needed to compete.
Not by itself.
Another portion of the article reads, consolidation will result in layoffs and changes to the programming budget. The company has already canceled a trio of original shows, including American Gigolo.
But let's be honest, the reason that we're here and the reason we're talking about this is not because of story-based programming. It's because we want to know, where does boxing on Showtime?
What's the future of boxing on the Showtime platform?
While it is expected to be business as usual at Showtime Sports through 2024, next year, it's less clear if all the boxing content currently on the network has a place in the combined offering long term. There are reasons to believe that the sport will continue to play a role in the company's future. Live sports have proven valuable within the pay TV landscape. In a hyper-competitive content market, live sports are one of the few media properties that is still available to cut through the clutter and regularly attract mass audiences services, Espinoza said.
Well, of course he's gonna say that.
He has to justify his presence on the Showtime platform to his higher-ups. He has to deliver numbers.
His job and the future of boxing on Showtime depends on it.
He continued, moreover, fans' passion for and emotional connection to their chosen sport team means they are lifelong customers, and the immediacy and unpredictability of live sports makes it virtually the only appointment viewing programming left in the content space, the network executive added. Boxing seemingly fits Paramount Plus's content strategy too. The streaming service offers a mix of entertainment, news, and live sports programming. Boxing is also a relatively inexpensive live sports proposition. The audience is only slightly smaller than some of these big sports leagues. The rights are a fraction of the cost, and it drives a very reasonable business, Espinoza said.
But of course he's gonna say that. Despite all of that,
HBO, yet another premium cable network like Showtime, they chose to exit the boxing business in 2018. The Showtime competitor made the decision in part because it wanted to appeal to a more upscale audience. Paramount, Showtime's parent company, they have a different agenda. The company seeks to attract the largest audience possible for its newly combined streaming service. So, having programming that appeals to a diverse and multi-generational audience would seemingly be viewed as advantageous.
yeah, perhaps it would if the content you're talking about is bringing in big viewership, big numbers, but that's the problem.
The numbers for boxing on Showtime, whether you're talking about the fights on their regular schedule or their box office fights, their pay-per-views, last couple of years, they've been on a downward spiral, a downward trend.
Which is where the question comes from. What's the future of boxing on Showtime? Because we see what happened in 2018 with HBO.
McCarthy said in an internal memo that the company would reallocate funds from underperforming assets that account for less than 10% of our views. Some media observers took that to mean boxing, but Espinoza insisted that the viewership
Data suggests otherwise.
Showtime has been in the boxing business for nearly 40 years, and that wouldn't be the case if the sport didn't bring value to the network year in and year out. Boxing helps to drive our business, whatever the chosen metric is: new subscribers, total viewership, subscriber retention, earned media, subscriber surveys. The value of boxing to the network is evident, he said.
But once again, of course he's gonna say that. He's Showtime's liaison to the world of boxing.
He is their liaison to the sport, but if their parent company, Paramount Plus, decides that Showtime's boxing content isn't a big enough part of their bottom line to keep it moving forward,
Can we really take it coming from him? Coming from Stefan Espinoza, whose ass is on the line.
Earlier in the article, they stated that boxing programming, at least from 2023 through 2024, it should proceed as scheduled.
That's roughly 2 years because this year just started.
If they do in fact know that they're safe, at least for the time being, at least 2023 going into 2024, that is their opportunity to show up and show out for the sport of boxing, to deliver the best possible metrics with the best possible content, the best possible matchmaking in order to drum up interest and drum up views, viewership, subscribership.
They can't be asleep at the wheel.
Sean Nam stated, the latest, giving boxing a 2-year window to basically prove itself to its corporate backers under the new consolidation. The piece points out that PBC and Showtime have entered into a new multi-year deal. Benjamin Miller said, it's less about Showtime Sports proving itself and more about where the pay TV bundle sits at the end of 2024. Showtime Boxing and MMA don't exist today because they draw great ratings. They exist because they are part of a minimum subscriber guarantee, agreements with pay TV providers.
So it all means the same thing. It's all metrics. It's all numbers.
This being a numbers game, ideally what you want is for your boxing programming to deliver you big numbers. Maybe that might explain why there was this late push to finally get the Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia fight over the line, and the resurgence of the Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford fight that they're currently in talks.
That's the latest news.
If Showtime Sports being under pressure from their corporate backers to justify their continued existence on the platform ends up delivering us these fights,
It's not bad news. That's good news.
because they have to deliver numbers, subscribership, viewership. They have to justify their continued existence on the platform.
Soft matchmaking ain't gonna cut it.
For a fighter like Errol Spence Jr., that's the biggest fight you could hope to make next to a Canelo Alvarez fight, but we all know that Canelo's busy.
Showtime's gotta hit the ground running this year. And finally, the latest on the ongoing Conor Benn situation and his recent appearance on the Piers Morgan show to detail what he's going through, what he's been going through, and what's going on now. Conor Benn has declared that he does not intend to box in the United Kingdom anytime soon. He said, "My dad tore up his British boxing license on TV. I don't have to be licensed by the board. I don't plan on fighting in Britain anytime soon." Acquiescence to defeat.
Does Conor Benn suspect that he can't prove his innocence to the BBBOC the way that the BBBOC wants him to, and as a result of that, he may receive a lengthy suspension as a result? Is he hauling tail because he feels he can't win?
This entire fiasco and the BBBOC themselves chased Conor Benn out of the UK.
It looks that way. He stated, "They can't stop me from fighting. In this country, fine. They filed 7 misconduct charges against me. One was, we wanted the fight to go ahead. Second was, we didn't tell Chris Eubank Jr. immediately. I thought, you lot can do one."
And what were the other 5?
Because that's just 2 in truth. I'm not surprised that Conor Benn will be fighting abroad moving forward, because when all of this started last year, that's what I told you would happen and could happen. Matchroom being a global promotional outfit that stages fights anywhere from the United Kingdom to the United States to the UAE and Australia and Spain and Italy.
Uzbekistan at least once.
Mexico on a regular basis. They just did a show in Mexico this past weekend. Conor Benn has other options. If the BBBOC wants to play hardball, he can fight in a variety of other locations around the world, waiting for all of this to blow over.
Though many are already interpreting it as an acquiescence of guilt, that perhaps you can't prove your innocence to the BBBOC, so you're hauling tail.
Is this what an innocent man would do if he could in fact prove that he were innocent?
Hypotheticals.
This hinders Conor Benn's ability to maintain himself as a marquee attraction, a big draw moving forward, because his core supporters are in the United Kingdom, not the United States or any of the other aforementioned locations. And what that essentially means is that if Conor Benn wants to keep being a part of big fights and being a big draw in his own respect abroad, as opposed to his native UK,
He ain't got that built-in audience.
he can still fight, you understand? He can still keep fighting. He can likely receive a boxing license with some other commission in some other location. But as far as being a big draw, well,
Why do you think they're looking at a Pacquiao fight? Because of Pacquiao's name value tacked onto Conor Benn's name value.
you know, in the UK, you could do a Conor Benn versus Florian Marcoux fight, and it'll sell because the built-in audience is there. But abroad, you're going to have to spice it up even more.
You could do Benn versus Granados, Benn versus Van Heerden when he's in the UK and he has that built-in audience to sell those tickets to and that viewership. But abroad,
Guys like Chris Algieri won't suffice. Thus, they're looking at 8-division champion Manny Pacquiao on the premise that Conor Benn is still somewhat green, and Manny, even if he is old,
still may pose a grave challenge to Conor Benn.
so maybe you see about doing a Conor Benn versus Manny Pacquiao fight somewhere in the Middle East for all that Middle East oil money. Or maybe you see about doing a Conor Benn fight in Australia opposite the ring, a guy like Stevie Sparks, who may be campaigning as a 140-pound fighter now, but need I remind you, he actually fought as high as junior middleweight opposite the ring Tim Tszyu when he was standing in for Michael Zarafa. Maybe you do Benn versus Sparks.
He moved up for Tim Tszyu. Maybe you offer him enough money, he moves up for Conor Benn.
Moves up to 147 pounds, which ain't all that high a climb for Stevie Sparks, who's a very big super lightweight. This is what I think the matchmaking is going to look like moving forward.
There is a lot more to unpack when it comes to Conroy.